Today's daily puzzle is a clever study composed by the French problemist Lazard. White is down material, and the f5 knight is hanging. To make matters worse, queen c5 checkmate is in the air. Thankfully, white is on the move. Since white's knight is hanging, and it's also the only piece that can deliver a check, our puzzle solution likely begins with knight e3 or knight d6. Intuitively, knight d6 check doesn't feel right, as black can simply capture the pawn, threatening the knight, which also prepares to clear the fifth rank, discovering a check against white's king. It may be tempting to play knight takes b7 check, preparing to meet the discovered check, king d4. With king a6, white's dangerous passed pawn on b6 should not be underestimated, but black can put an end to this counterplay with queen b8, threatening checkmate on a8, so white's position is collapsing. Since knight d6 check didn't lead to anything positive for white, this leaves us with the alternative option, knight e3 check. The difference between placing the knight on e3 versus the d6 square is that king takes c5 can be met by bishop f8 check, forcing the king to d4, leading to a similar situation to the puzzle's solution. It's essential for white's minor pieces to actively work together, so after the puzzle continues with king d4, white doesn't have a sensible follow-up check, so it may feel like we're reaching a dead end. We need to remain tactically alert, as the alignment between the enemy king and queen is the key to our solution. Bishop g7 is a desirable idea, and why exactly can't we play this immediately? This question allows us to dig beneath the surface, allowing us to continue confidently with bishop g7. The bishop is immune from capture, as this would allow knight f5 check, forking the king and queen. Once we discover this beautiful idea, it feels like we have found the solution, yet the puzzle continues with the resilient king takes c5, capturing a pawn while generously offering the queen. Or perhaps it isn't so generous because if we accept this gift, the enemy king is not in check, but there are no legal moves available. This means we've stumbled into stalemate. Capturing the queen forces stalemate, but does white have anything better than accepting a draw? With careful calculation, white can take advantage of the restricted enemy king with bishop f8 check, forcing the king to return to d4, discovering a check against white's king in the process. White is ready to meet this idea with king b4. The position may certainly feel a bit hectic, but the bishop is doing a great job defending the c5 square, eliminating the unpleasant possibility of queen c5. The enemy king is completely restricted, so the puzzle gives us a chance to go wrong after c5 check. Since our entire attacking scheme is based upon the restricted enemy king, we can immediately eliminate king b3, as this allows harassment from the queen after queen e6, attacking our king while also opening up an escape square for black's king. Moving the king to b5 runs into the deadly check on e8, so a tempting option is king a5. Preparing to meet c4, discovering the queen's check against our king by returning to b4. This looks like a convincing solution as black appears to be running out of clever replies. Bishop g7 is still in the air, but once again black is able to find a miraculous escape with queen d6 check, and after white captures the queen, we once again stumble into a surprising stalemate. Since the tempting king a5 allows black yet another Houdini-like escape, our only positive path forward is king a3. This is the only square where the king is immune from checks, so black once again has to worry about the looming threat of bishop g7 when there are no longer any tricky stalemate resources available. Advancing the pawn forward simply allows bishop g7, and since the enemy king is completely restricted, this only leaves us with queen moves to consider. Basically, any queen move will fail in the same way. For example, if black plays queen g5, trying to create an escape square for the king while watching the deadly g7 square, white can still play the crushing bishop g7, attacking the enemy king. Queen takes g7 runs into the familiar fork, knight f5. The puzzle continues with queen f6, attacking the dark squared bishop while preparing an escape square for the king. Once again, white continues with, you guessed it, bishop g7. Pinning the queen to its king, attracting the queen to the deadly g7 square. When we finally put an end to the puzzle's resistance with the knight fork, knight f5, attacking the enemy king and queen. Meeting king e5, with knight takes g7, reaching today's puzzle solution. If you are able to navigate Lazard's playground, solving today's puzzle, impressive work. We can also note if black tries to capture the f2 pawn, starting with king f4. One solution is knight e6 check, preparing to capture the pawn on c5, which then adds immediate pressure to the e4 pawn. And another solution is to play a5, preparing to meet king f3 by simply ignoring the threat with a6. Undermining the b7 pawn when white's advanced past pawns are simply too fast, so white will promote first with a winning position,